they don't know anything, but you hold some of the pieces of information that could get them closer to finding their child, their loved one. I just feel like they just the Laundrie family approached this the wrong way. But there is something new that just recently happened. JB Bueno just put this out. It's revolving around the Gabby Petito, or the Petito versus Laundrie lawsuit that's going on right now. And I just wanted to pick your brain about this. This just popped off just a little bit ago before I went live. And it says the court denies Brian Laundrie's parents' motion to dismiss Petito's civil lawsuit. Now, this is very interesting. The court judge has denied Christopher and Roberta, I like to call Roberta Laundrie's motion to dismiss a lawsuit filed by Gabby Petito's parents, alleging they knew their son, Brian, had killed their daughter. Now, the 12th Judicial Circuit Court Judge Carroll ruled the Petito family at this stage had a valid claim against the Laundries and allowed the lawsuit to advance. Now, I'm not going to go into this whole article, obviously, because we got a lot to talk about. And I know my brother Chris is only on here for a short time, but for a good time. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on this piece of information. I mean, are we really going to see the Petitos versus the Laundries inside this courtroom? Or is this just we're going to investigate this a little bit further?
Sure. So I read the ruling that came out, and so it's super interesting as a lawyer, but it's also good to see that the Petito family is able to move forward with their lawsuit. So here's what's going on, is that the parents of Gabby sued the parents of Brian for what's called intentional infliction of emotional distress. So what they're alleging is that Brian's parents knew of the whereabouts of Gabby's body, knew that she was deceased, and had their attorney go on the air and give a statement that provided false hope. That the attorney for the Laundrie parents saying, hey, we hope that Gabby is found. We hope the search is successful. We hope that she's brought home, when they knew that was never going to happen. So that's what the lawsuit's about. And so the defense there by Brian's parents were saying, like, hey, we have no obligation to speak. Even if we knew this information, we didn't have an obligation to disclose it, which is true under the law. If you know something, you don't have to share it unless you're in a special relationship, like patient doctor, attorney client, that kind of stuff. We have a duty to speak. But most people don't have a duty. You can know all this stuff, even though it's valuable to other people, you don't have to disclose it. So that's what their argument was, but they chose to speak. They did not remain silent. They decided through their attorney to give this statement that provided false hope. And the Gabby's parents obviously were highly distraught. They didn't know the whereabouts of Gabby. They didn't know if she was dead or alive. They didn't know what happened to her. They didn't know if they're even looking in the right place. And here comes the attorney for Brian's parents saying, oh, we hope that she's found. And the allegation is they knew exactly what had happened and that she wasn't going to be found alive. So that those set of facts, those allegations were found to be sufficient to state a legal case against the parents of Brian and to allow the case to go forward. So the court has not found that Brian's parents knew anything about Gabby's whereabouts. This is just an allegation that the court had to assume is true for purposes of testing whether the complaint was sufficient to go forth. And the harder part of it is now going to be to prove that Brian told his parents this information. Parents are right now taking the fifth because they're, would say that maybe they could be prosecuted. Right. And so they have a right to take a fifth. Eventually, at some point, that Fifth Amendment objection may be overruled if no prosecution is really reasonably certain to happen. But that'll be the next step in actually the fact gathering of the case. But right now, they got the green light to go forward.
Wow. Okay. So, okay. Now, real quick, I got two different questions for you, but one of the main ones I have here, though, is okay. When you said the statement, when the Laundrie family made a statement, you're talking about a statement that they made during the search when they were literally looking for Gabby at that time, or are you saying this the the little notebook that just recently came out last week?
So during the search, when the world was watching,
Mhm.
going into the swamp and looking and like, is nobody knew is what happened to Gabby. Did she run away? Is she alive? Is she dead? Brian responsible? Nobody knew anything. And it is during that time that the lawyer for the Laundries gave a statement saying, "We hope that this search that's happening is successful. We hope that she's found and brought home."
Gotcha.
And so that's what made that statement outrageous, is that the Laundries clearly knew that Petito's the Petito parents were in distress about their daughter and that they wanted to know where she was, and for them to allegedly give false information, false hope out there, that just increased their suffering. So that's why they're suing.
Gotcha. And then, okay, so then obviously after that, right? After this trial or this hearing that they just recently had to make the decision if they're going to go further into looking into this and seeing if this will actually advance into an actual trial and all that, they put out this, or it was leaked. I don't know what it was. I don't know if the Petito family did it or if it was the Laundrie family that did it, but the notebook where it was, confessed, the confession of how Gabby was killed and how all that went down. Did that help or did that hurt the Laundrie family for this being exposed?
Well, it doesn't come into play on this particular issue that the court just ruled on.
Yeah.
The issue that the court ruled on was whether Brian's parents had any kind of duty to be careful about what they said. And it was this very technical legal argument, because we all kind of say stuff that from time to time that may be outrageous to somebody else or may hurt their feelings and be upsetting to them, but we can't just be sued every time we offend somebody. So there, to get to this level where you can actually be sued for your statement, it has to be this conduct that's outrageous, that would not be tolerated in a civilized community, that was designed to cause harm, and that the speaker or actor knew would reasonably cause harm to this other person. So you have to really get to a very high level here. And that's what the question was about, was whether this statement by the lawyer for the parents, which is attributed to them because the lawyer we're just agents for our clients. So was that statement sufficiently outrageous and designed to cause harm? Was it foreseeable by these actors that Gabby's parents would suffer unnecessarily as a result of that statement?
Mhm.
That's the whole thing that was here. The next phase we'll get into is whether the parents of Brian actually knew about Gabby's circumstances when that statement was made. And I don't know if that's disclosed in the journal, like, "Hey, I told my parents." I don't know
Right.
that if he admitted that in there. If he did, that may be helpful. But, that's where the action's gonna be in the next phase of this litigation. This phase that was decided today was just whether there was enough grounds to move forward or whether the lawsuit needed to be dismissed.
Interesting. And so after now they dismissed the claims of trying to block this, trying to stop this from happening. The Laundrie family, they're literally letting this go further. So what do we see now next, or what should we expect to happen here next?
Well, so Gabby's parents are going to try and extract a statement from Brian's parents about what they knew, because obviously Brian can't, he's gone.
Right.
So we can't get Brian to say, "Yeah, I told my parents." So it's going to have to come from the parents of Brian. And right now they're taking the fifth because maybe they could be prosecuted for aiding and abetting. We don't know all the circumstances here. And so at least short term, they have a decent Fifth Amendment right in the US to saying like, hey, I don't have to give evidence against myself, so I'm not going to speak and the court won't compel them to speak. So they're exercising that privilege. And eventually, there will be a time when the court could overrule that. And what could happen, for example, is if there's a deadline for the prosecutor in Florida to charge Brian's parents with obstruction of justice or harboring a fugitive or aiding and abetting, accessory after the fact, whatever this crime is, there's usually deadlines for it.
Right.
So once the deadline passes, then Gabby's parents would come in and saying like, hey, you're not subject to prosecution. You can't even be charged. It's beyond the deadline to charge you. So now you have no Fifth Amendment privilege. So they may have to do that waiting game. Another thing is, what are they suing for? Well, obviously part of it is getting this truth out to expose what happened, but also some money. There's most likely a homeowner's insurance policy that Brian's parents have. They got that home and there's insurance there. So the insurance may put out some money here for this. They also own some stuff. And so that's what they're going after in addition to trying to expose what happened.
Yeah. I'm really hoping, like, what are your thoughts on this? Do you want to see it go to trial? Like personally, would you like to see this happen? Do you think that they have grounds to find justice in this way for Gabby?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always trying to, increase my empathy, and part of that is to put yourself in the shoes of the person that you find the villain.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's easy to say like, hey, we're outraged and this, throw them in jail too, the whole thing, right? But then when you put yourself in the shoes of Brian's parents and you figure, okay, if my son came to me and said, I did this, okay, there's just a terrible tension there. Do I say, hey, I'm taking you over to the police and you need to give a statement and turn yourself in?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you help him cover it up? It's an impossible choice. And here, Brian's parents morally, I think, made the wrong choice. They knew this information, and they should have just told him, like, hey, you need to, we'll always be your parents. We'll always love you, always support you, but we're not going to support you with this. And
Right.
what you need to do is honor yourself and Gabby and our family, and you need to go down there and talk to the police. And if you don't, I'm calling them right now. And morally, I think that's the right choice. But again, your kid, not everybody's going to act that way. No, not everyone's going to see it that way. So, all this stuff is highly nuanced. So I think to me, because we all watch that and we're wondering like, what happened to her? Did she run away? Hopefully she's still alive? Is Brian, what's going on here? And as a bystander, we don't know these people. We're feeling badly. And can you imagine if Gabby was your kid and how horrible that would be and how cruel and callous and insensitive it was for Brian's parents not to do anything to help.
Absolutely.
And then, and then actually to choose to speak and then to give false hope. So like I say, I can see where some instinct would be there to protect. And actually it's, Gabby's parents wrote a letter to Brian's parents with this very point saying, I know it's your son. I know that your instincts are to protect him, they said, but think about it from our position. Please help us. They said, even tell us if you know that we're searching in the wrong place. That would help if you just tell us like, we're not even looking in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
So they made that plea. And I think Brian's parents, maybe initially their instinct was, hey, I want to protect my kid. But, maybe that lasts a half hour or something like that. That doesn't last 2 weeks. And they went too far and they were callous with it. So I would like to see them held accountable.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see them be held accountable for this as well. I think that, understandably, coming from both sides of this perspective, both sides of the spectrum as well. I understand being a parent. I mean, I'm not a parent, but you know what I'm saying. I understand what it's like to have a loved one maybe just do something really bad, mess up so terribly bad that you're like, I will do everything I can to protect you, son, or protect you, fam. I get that piece. But when it's so connected, when it's so close, when it's something like this, you step forward, you help them find, if it's a missing person, a person is missing, they don't know anything, but you hold some of the pieces of information that could get them closer to finding their child, their loved one. I just feel like the Laundrie family approached this the wrong way. And I will say this, and this may be some real color commentary right here, but I'm going to keep it real. If it was my own daughter, if it was my own child, and they had information, and they're the ones holding the key to some information to get my child home faster, man, I'd be shaking the very foundation of the private domicile. I'm telling you right now, they would think like a bomb went off in their house because of how much I'd be banging on those doors. I'd be right in the front, right there, front seat, with all those protesters sitting in a lawn chair, drinking a smoothie, just waving and going, I'm here until you tell me something. You see what I'm saying? I would be there to make their lives a living hell until I got the information from them. So, but that's the difference between me and the Petitos. And I give the Petitos a lot of respect for being so diplomatic about this. And I can, because I look at Papa Petito, I look at the father, and he just looks like the kind of guy who'd like, yeah, you won't like him when he's angry. You know what I mean? So, and this is his daughter. So the fact that he has been so controlled is astonishing, to be really honest. And I commend that family for going this route instead of it, calling up, a cousin that has connections and whatnot. But of course, that's my own personal opinion about that, of course.
Pascal, you are now rocking with that dude Pascal. We be going wild.